So I'm going to end the last segment of this stream talking about a topic that's a little bit depressing, a little bit not something to be happy about. A couple weeks ago, there was a riot protest happening in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and a kid, 17-year-old boy by the name of Kyle Rittenhouse, killed a guy, and I think he killed multiple people and injured a few others. Now, I can't show any of the video footage of what happened because I'm streaming this to Twitch, and I'd rather not get yeeted by YouTube, but I will do my best to describe what happened in each of the clips that I reference, enough so that you can just go out and he killed two and injured one. To go out and find the clips yourself if you need to, okay? And in this segment, I'm going to be explaining the legal side of what he did, whether or not he was legally in the right to do what he did. And at the end, I'm going to discuss my moral opinion on what he did and sort of speculate a little bit on what I think his motive was and why he did what he did and why I am not defending his behavior. Say, oh, 2 injured, 2 dead? Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go over a summary of what happened very quickly. You can see all of this on video. Kyle Rittenhouse brought a gun, a rifle, with him across state lines illegally. He was 17 years old. He was not allowed to do this. To Kenosha, Wisconsin, a completely different state from where he lived. And he went there claiming that he was there to give medical support and to protect businesses. There have been multiple clips that have come out of him saying he did not bring non-lethal ammunition. He would kill people if he needed to, but he would also provide medical support to those that need it, whether they're protesters or protecting shops or police, right? That was what he said his goal was to do there, but that he did go there with guns or with a gun ready to kill people if he needed to, with lethal ammunition. Now, what then happens is a video starts. Actually, no, before this happened, a video came out of some guys saying that earlier that day he had pointed a gun at them, or a gun at some other people who were vandalizing a car and threatened to shoot them if they didn't stop. So, threatened to kill them, threatened violence against them. Now, a little later, towards nighttime, a video went viral. This is where the video starts, of Kyle Rittenhouse running through a parking lot with another guy chasing him, and he throws a plastic bag with what appears to be a plastic bottle in it. And he's chasing Kyle Rittenhouse. Kyle Rittenhouse then turns around and shoots the guy that was chasing him 4 times, once in the head, killing him, leaving him to die on the sidewalk. He then proceeds to run around the corner and go onto another street where more people chase him, and they try to chase him down and disarm him. That seems to be what's happening in the video. Now, one of the men chasing him has a handgun. Now, at any moment, the guy with the handgun could have shot, shot Kyle Rittenhouse in the back. He was running away, the guy had a handgun. But instead, the guy with the handgun rushes forward and attempts to tackle Kyle Rittenhouse, presumably to disarm him. I think we can fairly say, logically, in hindsight, that if this guy had some sort of lethal intent to hurt Kyle Rittenhouse, he could have just shot him, but he didn't. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse, once he's on the ground, proceeds to turn around and shoot multiple people. One of those people, the guy with the handgun, gets shot in the arm. From the looks of the video, it's hard to tell. After the guy's already got his hands in the air, Kyle Rittenhouse then proceeds to walk away as everyone scatters, because, the guy, he's shooting people, proceeds to walk away towards some police cars that are arriving, and the police cars just pass him, don't even pay him any mind. He goes home, and the next day turns himself in. He is not apprehended by the police at all. So we're going to start by separating the two shootings into 2 separate instances. The original shooting, where he was being chased by the guy with the plastic bag, and the second shooting where he killed another 2 people, or another person, and injured 2. We're going to separate these into 2 segments, into two separate events. And we're going to start by going over the legal side of it. So Wisconsin is not a stand-your-ground state. However, in court, if he has good enough if his lawyers are good enough, they will undoubtedly try to argue in favor of him engaging in self-defense. Now, what do you need to what qualifications must you meet in order to legally claim self-defense in court? Well, there's 5. Innocence, imminence, avoidance, proportionality, and reasonability. The first one is innocence. And right off the bat, Kyle Rittenhouse does not meet this qualification. Kyle Rittenhouse was illegally carrying a gun. He was out after curfew, and he'd committed several crimes by not only having the gun with him, but carrying it across state lines. He committed arguably about 3 crimes to be there. And by law, you do not have the right to claim self-defense legally if you're committing a crime. For example, if you break into somebody's house to steal their things, and a guy and the owner comes downstairs to try to attack you with a baseball bat and get you out, you can't shoot them and kill them and then claim self-defense because you were committing a crime by being there. You don't get to claim self-defense legally. So right off the bat, he's already broken. He's already not met the first requirement. There may have been other. He was also apparently wearing some kind of armor or two. Like, there's other laws that he broke apparently. But that's irrelevant. He's broken laws. He was there illegally. Just him being there in the way that he was, it was illegal. So already he can't claim that. Imminence. Basically, is there a reasonable expectation from the point of view of the person who engaged in the self-defense, that his life was in imminent danger and that he needed to engage in lethal behavior? Now, when we watch the first video, we'll go over the first video first. When you watch the first video, he's being chased. Now, whether or not the weapon the guy had was like lethal, like the fucking plastic bag with a bottle in it was a lethal weapon, is debatable. However, at the time, there was a gunshot that went off behind him. Somebody did fire a handgun. So I would actually argue, reasonably, that yeah, you could probably reasonably believe that his life was in imminent danger when he shot the first guy. A gunshot went off, he was being chased. A court of law legally would probably interpret that as being a reasonable presumption that his life was in imminent danger. Avoidance. In most stand your ground states, you do have a legal duty to retreat. Legally. Now, it's pretty obvious that he tried to get away. He was clearly running away in both situations, so he probably has some pretty decent defense there in regards to avoidance, okay? Proportionality. Was the threat proportional to your defense? Reasonably, maybe. There was a gunshot, so he might have thought that he was in danger of being shot by the person that was chasing him. He can probably defend himself on that case in court. Like, from what we've seen in the videos, he probably has ground to stand on there. So yeah. For most of these points, the odds are fairly on his side, but in order to legally claim self-defense, you have to meet all of these requirements. And one of them, the most important one, innocence, he has not met. And Wisconsin's not even a stand-your-ground state, so, you know, the odds legally are very much against him. What about the second occurrence? The second occurrence, where the people are chasing him down the street after he shot the first guy, and he's being chased by that crowd. Well, innocence, he still doesn't meet that qualification. Imminence, well, certainly somebody coming at you with a skateboard and with a gun, you can feel fairly like your life is in danger, so we'll give him that one. Avoidance, he was running away, was clearly trying to get away. I'll argue that the last guy that he shot after he had his hands in the air was probably, does not match that, but we'll be generous to him and say he probably meets it there, along with proportionality and reasonability, okay? So legally, he does not meet all 5 requirements, and legally he will probably not get away with this unless he has really good lawyers, which he apparently does. But legally, he is in the wrong in both shootings. That seems to be the case, from the research that I've done. Now, there is one more thing to consider when it comes to whether or not he is in the right legally and how he will fare in trial, and that is consideration of his moral character. In court, in a case like this, the prosecutors are allowed to consider the moral character, or I should just say the character of the person who is, of the defendant. About a month ago, a video came out of Kyle Rittenhouse assaulting a woman on the street. So, that's not very good. That video will absolutely be part of the court case. Not to mention, there is a video that came out beforehand of him, granted, saying he was there to provide medical support to people who need it, but also clarifying he came there only with lethal rounds, ready to shoot people with said lethal rounds. So, not looking too good for him in the moral character department. So, when he goes to trial, the prosecutors are probably going to take into account all of these things. And it's probably not looking too good for him. Now, let's talk about the moral side of it. Now, much of what I'm about to say, I want to clarify, is conjecture, based entirely on the evidence of him that we've seen from his social media, videos that have come out of him, and from the video that we've seen. Some of the conclusions that I come to will not be entirely backed up by evidence that we have seen, only by my intuitive process of sort of deciding what I think this guy is, okay? So I want to clarify, I am not making a prescriptive claim about this guy based entirely in evidence, okay? This is my opinion on the issue, what I think this guy was, okay? Judging by the guy's social media, how he was like a cop larper, and the fact that he had assaulted a woman in public only a month before, I think this guy was probably a little fucking shit. This kid was a little shit, who probably had the same mindset as Leafy currently has. You guys seen how Leafy talked about on Keemstar's show, how he was, he brought a gun to the protest and was just hoping someone would give him an excuse to use it. Judging by this guy's behavior, his social media presence, what have you, I think that kid went there with his gun, with lethal ammunition, just hoping that someone would give him a reason. Just hoping someone would give him a fucking reason. And, arguably, someone gave him a fucking reason. Now, the first shooting, I think he's fairly defensible in that. I think he's fairly defensible in the first shooting, morally speaking, even though he was breaking the law to be there, and his intentions were arguably probably there, like hoping someone would give him a reason to kill somebody. He was, I would guess, in my opinion, he was out for blood from the start. I mean, he traveled quite the way to get there, about an hour away, just to go there, where there was a riot happening with lethal ammunition, ready to kill somebody if need be. However, the second shooting. This is where I think he's most in the wrong. The second shooting. Now, morally, if we're going purely for a pragmatic perspective, was he in the right, and were the people in the crowd that chased him in the wrong? Well, let's start with the people in the crowd. From the perspective of the people in the crowd, all they knew is that about 7 gunshots had gone off, maybe 8 if you count the handgun shot that had happened before he shot the first guy. All they know is that people were screaming, he just killed somebody. They see him with a gun, running away from what is clearly a scene of a shooting. Now, legally, for the people that chased him down, in the state of Wisconsin, you are allowed to apprehend somebody with force if you believe they just committed a felony. So, right off the bat, the crowd that was chasing him was in the right legally. But morally, I would argue they were also in the right, because they believed they were apprehending somebody who had just murdered another person. So whether or not they are correct, from their perspective, I would argue they were reasonably able to intuitively come to the opinion that that guy was a murderer who was engaging in an active shooting, and that they felt a moral obligation to stop him before he hurts anybody else. Because, let's be honest, just because somebody's running away from a large crowd doesn't mean he's going to stop shooting. If you're being chased down, doesn't matter if you can mow all those people down or not, it's fairly reasonable to assume that if he just killed somebody, he may just be trying to reposition. So from their perspective, I think morally they were doing what they thought was the best thing, and they're morally defensible. Now, Kyle Rittenhouse was running away, supposedly from the situation, trying to go back to where the police are and retreat from the situation. Now, obviously, his intentions there, from my perspective, my moral belief is that he was there to kill people if they gave him an excuse. But I don't think he believed when he was running away that anyone else was going to give him an excuse. And when he saw that other people were chasing him, he probably genuinely was trying to protect himself, because those people were coming at him with like skateboards and ready to beat the shit out of him, right? So you can probably argue that he morally had the right to defend himself in that situation, even if we thought, if we agree that he maybe morally had the right to defend himself when he was being chased. In a vacuum, not considering his intentions going there. It's a very complicated situation. And honestly, what I believe really sets the decision whether or not he was in the right or the wrong is considering his moral character. Because if we look at it in a vacuum, it comes off as being neither of them are in the wrong, the crowd or him. But if we consider all the context and everything outside of this very particular isolated situation, then we find that he was there against the law knowingly, and that his intentions, based on his previous behavior and his social media history, were probably not all that good. But yeah, that is the rundown from the research that I've done, the legal grounds of the situation, and from based on my opinion and my moral system, the moral grounds and the moral opinion on the situation. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say about it.